Hello, everyone. This is Bob Glowacky from Exeter TV, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Congressman Pappas of New Hampshire's 1st District to learn more about the CARES Act. Congressman, thank you for being with us today.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope you're doing well and that everyone out there who's watching is safe.
Mhm. So the CARES Act was one of the largest financial stimulus rescue packages in the United States history, with over 800 pages in the act. Could you break it down for us? And what does this mean for Granite Staters here in New Hampshire?
Well, the CARES Act was the third bill that was passed in a bipartisan fashion by Congress, but it by no means is going to be the last bill because as we see this pandemic continue to be prolonged in terms of its duration, as we understand the impacts that our small businesses are experiencing right now, the hardships that our families are going through right now, the pressures that are on our healthcare system, there is clearly more work to do to provide the critical response effort that we need to allow us all to weather this storm right now. So the CARES Act is a $2.2 trillion program that was passed by Congress that really touches all aspects of our society that have been impacted by the pandemic. And we looked first and foremost at individuals, making sure that there was direct support for individuals who may have lost a job because their business has been closed or operations have been restricted. So there's support for New Hampshire's unemployment fund, as well as an additional $600 benefit for individuals who are on unemployment right now. We've seen over just the last few weeks, over 100,000 individuals in New Hampshire alone file initial claims for unemployment benefits. So we know that this pandemic is really hitting people hard. In addition to that, there are direct payments to individuals under a certain income level, $1,200 payments that are already being made by the IRS. People who have questions about that can contact our office. They can also go to the irs.gov website where there's an online portal where you can figure out when that payment is going to come if it hasn't arrived already and what additional information you might have to provide in order to receive it. Beyond that, we wanted to make sure that the CARES Act was responding to the pressures on Main Street. And right now we have seen a serious dislocation in terms of our business climate here in New Hampshire, not just in terms of our restaurants and bars, but it's really impacting all businesses who are out there. People would like to get out and they would like to go shopping and visit our downtowns, but obviously we're all doing our part to stay home right now. So in this period where our economy is virtually in suspended animation, it's important that our businesses have a lifeline to be able to either stay open or continue paying their bills so that on the other side of this pandemic, they're able to reopen, continue to provide employment, and continue to drive our economy forward. A few of the programs that are part of the CARES Act are really important and are already being utilized by New Hampshire companies. I believe over 7,000 businesses have accessed more than $1 billion in support through both the Paycheck Protection Program as well as the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. The Paycheck Protection Program is a loan program that is forgivable for certain business expenses, including payroll, assuming that payroll is maintained over an 8-week period. And in addition to that, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans provide with them an upfront $10,000 grant that's really valuable for companies that are seeing a disruption of their business and really need some help. So those are a few of the components that help our small businesses, but there's clearly more to do. We're already hearing word that these programs are reaching their capacity, and so Congress needs to provide additional support for those programs to make sure that no one is left out. There's also a focus on our healthcare sector, and first and foremost, this crisis is a health crisis, and we've got to be able to beat this virus in order for us to get back to economic life and make sure everyone gets through this period. So support for our hospitals and community health centers is critically important, and that's why the CARES Act provides more than $100 billion of support for healthcare in New Hampshire and across the country so that our facilities can continue to provide that critical care and deal with the pressures that are coming their way. So there's more work to do. We have to protect our frontline workers by providing them additional personal protective equipment and making sure that we're doing all we can to develop a vaccine that can get out there to expand testing, which is so crucial for us to be able to return to society and remove some of these restrictive orders that have been put in place. But clearly we're all in this together, and we need to have a continued, sustained, comprehensive effort where the federal government is working with state and local partners in order for us to weather this storm.
Given the scale, as you mentioned, of the impact, are there specific priorities you're going to try to pursue in future legislation related to relief packages for the country?
Well, the few of the things that we need to look at include additional support of some of the programs that I just mentioned. These small business programs that are close to their maximum. Congress needs to provide additional allocations as well as additional flexibility so that companies can access them, and that there's a longer time horizon than just 8 weeks to the Paycheck Protection Program. We all think it's going to take a lot longer than that for business to get back to somewhat of a normal set of circumstances. In addition to that, the direct support for state and local governments is absolutely critical. Washington can spend money, but I think no one has a better handle on where those dollars should best be spent than our governors, our state elected officials, our local officials. So the CARES Act provided $1.25 billion directly to New Hampshire that it can use for a variety of purposes. You've heard some announcements already from the governor about how those dollars are going to be spent, including some additional support and hazard pay for our frontline workers, support for our nonprofit sector, which is really hurting right now. That's exactly what those dollars were intended to do. So we're hoping to double down on that in the next package, as well as allow states and municipalities to use those funds for critical services that have, unfortunately, we've seen a real disruption to local and state revenues. So state and local governments need money to be able to backfill that, and hopefully the funding can have the flexibility to do that. In addition, I think we've got to do something with infrastructure. Longer term, we have to talk about how we can create the backbone of economic success for this country, invest in our roads and bridges and broadband. What this pandemic is highlighting is a digital divide that exists in our country. We're seeing that in terms of the delivery of healthcare and also education. So we need to connect our homes and our businesses to high-speed broadband. And so we hope that maybe not in the next bill, but the fifth bill, as we think more about recovery and the longer-term economic needs of this country, that infrastructure can be part of that conversation. I serve on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, so I have a lot of ideas in that space. But we absolutely need to continue to monitor how our healthcare system is doing, making sure that individuals have access to care and to coverage that's going to work for them, and that our hospitals and medical facilities can get through this period.
That's great. I noticed on your website that you're holding a virtual town hall soon. Did you want to talk at all about what that will look like and what you'll be covering in that?
Sure. We've been doing weekly virtual town halls, teletown halls, where individuals can call in and ask questions that are on their minds. And we try to bring to bear experts in the medical field and public health, people that know a lot about the ins and outs of small business, that have been answering questions that are on constituents' minds. So I've been teaming up with Congresswoman Annie Custer from the 2nd District, and we've been doing these for the last several weeks. We get an excess of 12,000 individuals calling in on these phone calls. And so it's, I think, been a great resource for the people of New Hampshire to try to get information out. But we're looking for all ways to connect. And, every day I spend most of the day, on Zoom, on teleconferences, on phone calls with constituents, local businesses, chamber groups, any sort of organization that, is experiencing hardship and needs some assistance, folks that are advocates for different sectors of society, say our hospitals or our nursing homes or long-term care facilities. So we're collecting all the ideas that we can so that we can, be well informed as we approach additional legislative efforts in Congress and help shape it in a way that's appropriate and relevant to the people of New Hampshire.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to, dive a little bit more into the CARES Act and what's being done in Congress to address the COVID-19 outbreak. As many of us are, sitting at home watching the news, often sad news. Is there any, messages of hope you want to offer to the people of New Hampshire and, what to look forward to?
Well, we've seen some encouraging news of late and some data points that show that the social distancing, the fact that we've been staying home, that we haven't been going to work, haven't been getting out in the community, that those things appear to be working. And so I think we all have the power by following those orders, by taking care of ourselves and our families, to not just protect our own safety and public health, but also of the community at large. So I think by continuing to come together, by doing what's right and appropriate, by following those public health guidelines, by listening to the CDC, we're going to continue to save hundreds of thousands of lives over the course of this pandemic. That's very, very significant. That's something you can't put a price tag on. I think in addition to that, we've seen the generosity of the people of New Hampshire on full display, whether it's local businesses who are beginning to manufacture hand sanitizer, or folks that are going the extra mile to find supplies and donate them to our hospitals or nursing homes. That is helping to make a difference in protecting workers and patients and saving lives. And it's being done not by forcing people to do it, but by people coming forward, wanting to know how to be of use and to help during this tough time. So I think that gives you some hope that we can get through this, that we can get it through it in a way where we're stronger, where we do our best to protect public health. I think when we're on the other side of this curve, things will look a lot different for several months and potentially even several years. But I think we're all learning a lot, and everyone is in good spirits and doing everything they can to help in that overall effort. There's something that we all can do to be a part of helping to address this.
Well, once again, thank you, Congressman Chris Pappas, for joining us here virtually on Exeter TV. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks. It was great to be with you.